Ohio State, because I do think this game tomorrow, we can come up with a bunch of big adjectives, and we can find a bunch of really big words to use to talk about the importance of Ohio State at the sexual assaulter factory. But I'm telling you now, this is the game of the year. This is arguably Will Howard's biggest game of his career because of what happened at Autzen, because of the outcome and his role in that outcome. I think this is a proving ground for Will Howard. You are on Big Noon Kickoff. You are at Penn State. It is going to be loud and raucous. That place is going to be popping. I think we all know that. And this is a must-win for Ryan Day. On so many levels, this is a must-win for Ryan Day. It's a must-win for Will Howard. It is my biggest question. If Drew Allar plays, can Penn State pressure the Ohio State secondary the way that Oregon did? Is Drew Allar that guy? Now, there is a belief he will play. He's battling a knee injury. I believe he plays. It's a massive game. You have at least got to try and play. If you Drew Allar, that's what they're saying. He's going to give it a go. This is a huge game. But I don't even think that this is about Penn State on any level. This is all on Ohio State. This is the moment. This is the game. This is where we figure out who is Ryan Day as a head coach. Is Ryan Day a guy that you believe can prepare his football team in a do or die situation? Because make no mistake about it, if Ohio State loses this game, their hopes and dreams are dead. You're not going to the college football playoff. You are not playing for a Big Ten championship. The Michigan game is all you have left in front of you. If you lose at Penn State tomorrow, it is everything that you have ever dreamed of, that you have ever wanted in a football game. Ohio State at Penn State, noon Eastern on Fox. I love Ohio State in this game. I'm a big believer in Will Howard, and I am not going to fluctuate in my belief. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I think he's exactly who you want under center in a game like this. I believe in Caleb Downs in that secondary. I believe in Chip Kelly as a play caller. Jake, I'm all in on Ohio State at Penn State.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, the biggest thing for Ohio State in this game is going to be bouncing back from the Oregon game. With all due respect to their schedule, you played Oregon and you haven't really played anyone else since. And I think that, the things we can't forget leaving the Oregon game are obviously going to be late game execution. But I also think this conversation around Jeremiah Smith and feeding him is a big talking point in this game, because you can't have a situation where you get to a place where they're doubling Jeremiah Smith every time and you're not able to get him the football. And I think that Jeremiah Smith is someone who should be a game wrecker in this game. He should be someone who breaks the back of that Penn State secondary on a pretty regular basis. And it's just going to be a matter of if they can get him the football. And if Ryan Day has done a good enough job preparing his football team on offense to create schemes and sets that provide Jeremiah Smith with a free release. Because I'm telling you, if you're just going to line him up wide left the whole game and you're going to let them play man over the whole game, that's not good enough on offense. It's not good enough. I want to see bunches. I want to see trips formations. I want to see, a lot of creativity to get him open, because he's shown you when you throw him the football, he catches the football. He makes the play. And that, to me, is the biggest key in this game. And I completely agree. You're playing for your life in this game. You lose this game, your season's over, and Ryan Day probably gets fired, honestly. Because you lose this game, you're not going to the college football playoff, in my opinion. And you don't deserve to go to the college football playoff, in my opinion. So to me, I just think that whether it's Will Howard, Ryan Day, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Smith, Quinshon Judkins, whoever you want to look at, all these dudes know that they have to go out and get a job done. And it's Ohio State. They have a reputation for not coming through. And this is a game where I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I really do think if you don't win this game and you don't go to the college football playoff with the roster you have to make a change. You're getting fired.
You have to make a change.
And I think, not only that, I think if you're Will Howard and you can't win this football game and you don't lead your team to victory, that's going to hurt your draft stock big time. If you think people aren't watching this game, if you think people are not, if you think this game's doing anything less than 10 mil, 11 mil, you're crazy.
Oh, it is the game of the weekend.
Yeah, everyone's going to be watching this game. So to me, I look at this and I say, okay, travel's not nearly as arduous with this game. It's right down the street by college football standards. You know the environment you're playing in. It's not a night game. It's a day game. So you really the expectation should be that Ohio State's going to go in there and get a victory. That should be the expectation. And anything less than that, and I don't care how they do it. If they got to do it by kicking a late field goal, if they got to do it by getting a defensive stop, whatever it is, go out and get a victory. Nothing less. Anything different is unacceptable.
I think, let's get real about Ryan Day. Has he done a good job at Ohio State? Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
Has he done what you needed him to do at Ohio State? No, he is not. And I do believe he's coaching for his job tomorrow. I think his legacy is on the line in this game. I think it is that serious. If you look at the way that he is going about this, and if you look at the way that people are talking about Ryan Day, he's not a bad coach. But doesn't he have to prove that the Oregon game is not who he is? Doesn't he have to prove that he can beat Michigan? Doesn't he have to prove that he can win a national championship? I think he does. And he made all of these changes this year. You bring in a cat like Chip Kelly to be your offensive coordinator. Your offensive line, and I understand you're injured, but everybody's injured. Your offensive line has been bad. I think, is it too much to say he is coaching for his job?
No, I don't think it's too much to say that. I think that the problem is that Ohio State's in a place where people are questioning how good you are. People like as an example, like you can look at a team like Texas is a great example because they lost to Georgia, and the way they lost to Georgia, people were questioning, what went down in that game. And people, the thing that people don't question is, hey, Sark can get to the playoff. He has a super deep roster.
Yep.
Next man up mentality at Texas. If someone gets hurt, another guy's going to step on the field. Nobody questions the quality at Texas. They question the preparedness and the execution against Georgia specifically. But for Ryan Day, I do think people are questioning, like, hey, if you can't beat Oregon and you lost the way you lost, and then you can't beat Penn State, like I'm sorry, I know both of those are on the road, but you're Ohio State. The standard's different. The standard is, essentially, I mean, if we're being honest, the standard's going undefeated every year. I mean, that's really the expectation. People roll out with Ohio State most preseasons and say, okay, you've got 2 games on the schedule. You're going to win those 2. You're going to lose those 2. Because that's what we did this year. That's what everybody did. Yeah. Hey, you've got Oregon and Penn State. You're going to beat those teams because you're going to beat Michigan, if you see them. So,
this game's about Ohio State. And yeah. Listen, I understand Andy Kotelnicki has been a revelation at Penn State. I think he's made Drew Allar a better quarterback. But it's not like Nick Singleton's been the best running back in the conference. Their running game has sputtered is probably strong. The running game at Penn State isn't terrifying anybody. I think his work with Drew Allar has been the real win here. But this game's about Ohio State. Let's be brutally honest. If that secondary doesn't cover better than they did against Oregon, and if this Ohio State offensive line doesn't show up and give Will Howard an extra second, none of this matters. They're more talented. They're better at the skill positions. You've got the best wide receiver in the country, and you haven't been able to run the ball dynamically, and Will Howard has not been able to stand in the pocket and deliver the football consistently. I'm not Chip Kelly. I'm not an offensive coordinator. But this isn't on Chip Kelly. When so many people have been ripping him, you can rip Chip Kelly all you want. He's got his 5 best offensive linemen on the field, and they're not good enough. He's put the right route combos in. I think schematically their offense is sound. They simply have not had the time because they've been getting whooped up front on that offensive line. And it is, and I don't mean to be disrespectful of Penn State. This is all about Ohio State showing up and doing the job.
Yeah, Penn State's always been the little brother, dude.
And they are the little brother now. They are. And again, I think Kotelnicki's a great story. I think Drew Allar's a great story, even though with the injury, whatever. This is about Penn State. This is about them showing up and doing a job. I don't have to wonder if Will Howard can throw the football. I have to wonder if he will have the protection and the time to throw the football, because I think he lives for these crowds. I don't think the crowd was a factor in Eugene. I think Ryan Day was a factor in Eugene. I think the offensive line. I think the fact that they could not cover. These are all things that we can talk about.
I think that the big thing coming out of the Oregon game was the lack of preparedness in 2-minute situations, and 2-minute or less. You have to be able to say, okay, great, we feel comfortable in this situation. We know how we're going to execute. We got one timeout or whatever. We know what we need to do, and it's incredible to me that there just wasn't more of an emphasis to get Jeremiah Smith open. Get him open. Get him in, really good matchups.
But what's the truth about getting him open? Penn State's going to play man. They always play man. We know they play man, right? They're sending 6 up. They're going to get Will Howard. They're sending 6. That's what they do. This team, even against guys like, Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, I think one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country, inarguably, they're going to send 6 and play man. That's who Penn State is. And this is going to come down to, have you figured out how to handicap the offensive line?
Mm-hmm.
Have you figured that out? Have you figured out how to consistently throw the football on a hot route to the running back? Have you figured that out? And my guess is you have. And if you, I'm telling you, if this offensive line plays the same way that they played last week against Nebraska, don't even get on the flipping plane. Don't even show up at Beaver. Don't do it. Because Sandusky State will beat you down if you are not going to protect better than you protected against that Nebraska front.
Yeah, I think that I mean, I agree with that, obviously, but I also think that again, this Ryan Day Chip Kelly conversation is front and center, because you know what you have in that offensive line. So I understand that, yeah, Penn State's going to bring 6, but if they're going to bring 6, and obviously that's down and distant dependent, they're not bringing 6 every single play, but I think
80% of the time that Ohio State offensive line is going to see 6.
If they're going to bring 6 the whole game, they're going to lose the game by 10. You can't bring 6 the whole game against Ohio State. That's not going to work.
But and I don't disagree with you. Nebraska was in man 35-40% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we watched pretty much that entire game.
But my thing is, I don't disagree they're going to play man, but if they're going to shade over, if they're going to play man over on Jeremiah Smith the whole game, and you do nothing to change that dynamic, if you do nothing to because he typically lines up wide left. That's typically where you're going to see Jeremiah Smith most times. So if he's going to be wide left and you're going to allow them to essentially box him into the sideline the whole game, that's on Ryan Day and Chip Kelly. That's not on Will Howard or the offensive line.
Carnell Tate is going to have the game of his life if they're going to win, because I agree with you. I think we all know that Jeremiah Smith has been the best receiver in football this year.
Yeah.
I think he's the best receiver in the country. And that means Egbuka and Tate have to be better. And I think Carnell Tate is up to the job. I think he is that guy. And I think Will Howard's that guy. But you've got to stand up. You've got to hold up rather against 6-man pressure from Penn State. That's the entire conversation, bros. That's it. And if you don't, I think Ryan Day is done after this year, because I think if you lose this game, are you Oregon or are you Nebraska? And Ohio State fan, get in the comment section. I don't think they played poorly against Oregon. I know this is, I did an interview in Columbus the other day talking about this exact thing. I don't think they played bad against Oregon. I know that's controversial, and I know people freak out when I say that. They played terribly against Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
That was a bad performance. I'm not worried about Oregon. You can clean up that final possession. You can't clean up what we saw against Nebraska.
Yeah, but I agree with that. But my bigger concern is the play calling against Oregon. My bigger concern is the lack of situational awareness displayed through that game. And Nebraska is another good example. To your point, like there were no I didn't see adjustments. I didn't see like, hey, Nebraska's doing X, so we should do Y.
I totally agree.
Like great football teams, and this was the Texas conversation coming out of the Georgia game. Great
100%.
football teams can go to the half and make adjustments.
I agree.
And what did Texas not do? Texas was not bringing out the jumbo package or the max protect package for whatever reason. And I'm tired of hearing, oh, well, Will Howard ran down the middle of the field and that's why they lost the game. That is not why they lost the game. Now, Will Howard deserves criticism. He's been held accountable for that. I think he's answered that question a million times over the last, 4 weeks or whatever it's been since they played that game, right? Like he's answered that question. If you're in 2 minute at the end of this game against Penn State, you messed up somewhere along the road. You are a better team than Penn State.
Yeah.
You have more talent, but the coaching ability is what I'm concerned about, which is why I say, if you lose this game, don't care if it's by 1 or by 100. You lose this ball game, Ryan Day should be fired. Now, if you win this ball game and you go undefeated the rest of the way, then you go to the college football playoff and you win 2 games in the college football playoff. Now we're having a different conversation about Ryan Day. But this is one of those games that great head coaches win. And I don't think we can definitively say that Ryan Day is an all-time great college football coach until he shows us he can win these bigger ball games.
Yeah, I think that if I had to guess, Donovan Jackson will be a tackle. I think the Josh Simmons injury completely changed the dynamic of this offensive line. I do not think that Zen Michalski was a game changer, in my opinion. I'm not saying he was bad, but he got hurt too, by the way. I mean, I think now this is where you have to step up. And I think that, the things that concern me is you're not running the ball at Ohio State. You have one of the best run support safeties in football, in Jalen Reed. You look at some of Jalen's numbers and his performances. He's one of the best run support guys, and he's having arguably the season of his life. I think he is, I don't think even in doubt, the best safety in the Big Ten. He's having that kind of impact on a team that's got national championship aspirations. And if you're going to allow him to be in the box in run situations, I think you're in trouble.
But see, in that scenario,
plain and simple.
In that scenario, and this is what I'm talking about, because you're going to be in a spot where you're 3rd and 15 in this game. That's going to happen. You're going to see that. Do you have the balls to send Jeremiah Smith down the field? Because if they're going to put a safety in the box,
do you have a choice but to?
But my point is, if you're 3rd and 15, and this is something you need to watch, because Ryan Day does this and it drives me nuts. If you're 3rd and 15 on your 30-yard line and you're having a crappy drive to start the game, are you going to be the guy that's just going to turn around and hand it off and punt it away? Or are you going to be the guy that says, okay, I want a running back in the backfield. I want 5 offensive linemen, and I want to give Will Howard 3 seconds. And then I want to send Jeremiah Smith 20 yards down the field. Which way are we going to go in this game? And those are the little things I'm talking about. Like Penn State's going to come after you. But this isn't about Penn State.
No,
this is about Ohio State.
Yes,
this is about Ryan Day and Chip Kelly answering the bell, man. And I love Chip Kelly as an OC. I think he's incredibly creative. A lot of the sets are really solid, but he has this particular year left a lot to be desired, man. There's been a lot of times where I'm like, man, like what was that? Like, why are we? It's like what I talk about with BYU and Aaron Roderick. Like, why are we going east and west on 3rd and 15? Why are we not showing the defense that we don't give a damn what the down and distance is? We will take a shot on you. Because that has to happen in this game to alleviate them bringing down 8-9 guys into the box the whole game. That's what you have to do. And that's kind of why I say, like, I agree that the Penn State's coming for you. But this is, that already. You have to respond.
Yeah. And the quarterback at Penn State's a big deal because I think if you're asking Denzel Burke to cover everybody,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Caleb Downs and Denzel Burke, I think have been really good. I think that Caleb Downs is the best defensive player at Ohio State. I think he's been everything you want. I think he and Jalen Reed are fantastic to watch at the top end of two really good defenses. But the truth is that Ohio State hasn't covered opposite of Denzel Burke nearly as much as you like. And look, Denzel didn't have the best game of his life against Oregon. I think we all recognize that.
Right.
But this is redemption time because if Drew Allar plays, so Drew Allar's got this knee injury. He's not going to be mobile. He's not going to be a guy that's, and especially he likes to roll to his left effectively. That's kind of his crutch when he wants to throw and he needs a minute. He'll roll left. He's not going to be able to do that with this knee injury. And I think it's a huge question if Bo Pribula, whatever the hell his name is, if the Fighting Sandusky's backup quarterback can compete.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do not have a day, I think the number's 3 sacks at a minimum here. I think you need at least 2 turnovers and 3 sacks. You need to terrify their quarterback if you're Ohio State.
Yeah.
I think it's got to happen.
There was some video on the Drew Allar portion. There was some video that came out yesterday of him kind of jogging around at practice. Like there's a noticeable limp. There's, he's clearly not 100%. And I think you make a great point. I would completely agree. His escape is rolling left.
Absolutely.
And when when your knee hurts, when you don't have full dexterity in that knee, when that knee is not feeling good and you can't trust it, that's going to be an incredibly difficult throw.
And he's already not a gifted thrower of the ball.
And that's what I was going to point out too, about this game. One of the things that really stood out to me in the Oregon game was Dillon Gabriel is Heisman Trophy good. Like, let's be real. Dillon Gabriel showed the deep ball efficiency in that game. He showed an ability to get over the top on Ohio State with regularity. And with all due respect to Drew Allar, he's not Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel is far better than he is. So, to me, this game is entirely different. It's an entirely different ask than what the ask was against Oregon. The ask against Penn State is to stop the run early and force Penn State into a lot of 3rd and 10. Because if you can do that, you're going to get off the field on them. They thrive when they're 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, just like any other football team does. The only difference is they don't have Dillon Gabriel to bomb it 40 yards down the field on 3rd down when you weren't expecting it. And that's why I say I really do feel like Ohio State should win this game. The expectation should be Ohio State wins this game, in my opinion, by a touchdown. And you're able to control this Penn State offense if you're Ohio State. That's what the expectation should be.
Well, I think you also have to remember that you have a really good pass catching tight end in Tyler Warren. You have a guy looking for redemption in Julian Fleming. Penn State's got some dudes, and you're not just going to show up here. And again, not to be redundant, has Ohio State recovered from losing Josh Simmons? Because they're not running the football effectively at all.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh Simmons, the left tackle who's out for the year with his knee injury. I think that's the question that everybody is asking about this Ohio State offensive line. Can you recover from that loss? And what are you going to do to try and recover from that loss?
Yeah.
And I do think that you are looking at, I think Donovan Jackson's got to play tackle for Ohio State because you've got to run the football. They don't right now, and maybe I'm wrong, Ohio State fan, but I don't feel like right now that you are a team that can be up 7, the Nebraska scenario, be up a touchdown and run the football to burn the clock.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like Ohio State had that in the repertoire last week. So,
I mean, was it the 69 yards they ran for?
Yeah, it's just gone away.
Yeah.
And I agree with your point about Dillon Gabriel. Nothing at Ohio State that they're going to see out of Penn State is Dillon Gabriel level tomorrow.
Yeah.
But don't mistake the fact that Penn State's offense is good enough to beat you significantly. I think the world of this Ohio State secondary. I think they're going to be better. I think they will, in my opinion, they will pressure. They will cover. My single biggest question in this game is, can they run the football? Can Ohio State run the football?
And do they look prepared? Like, you're going on the road here. Like, can you run the football? Do you look prepared in the passing game? Like these, when we talk about Ryan Day, everyone, it's easy to say, like, hey, he needs to be fired. But I'm not even saying he should be fired from the standpoint of, hey, did Penn State stop you from running the football? I'm saying from a preparedness level, do your guys look confident in what they're doing? Do they look like they've got that belief? Because they had that belief against Oregon. Like, you were in a good place in that game until the fourth quarter, and then it kind of went sideways. So I think, again, I'm taking Ohio State by a touchdown. You know, I just, you're a 3-point road favorite in this game. Win the game by a touchdown, control the clock in the second half, and show us that you're that guy. Show us that you can control this team a little bit. Like, don't make it a field goal game going to the fourth quarter, man.
I haven't seen. Has anybody seen an update on Dennis Sutton? If he doesn't play for Penn State, that's a big loss. I think Drew Allar will play. I have no doubt about that. But the questions about Dennis Sutton are huge. He is a beast. He's not going to be 100% if he.
Here's a nugget that Brett McMurphy tweeted 6 minutes ago about Ohio State and Penn State. Ohio State's a 3-point favorite at Penn State, as we were saying,
which I'm a little surprised about.
As a home underdog, Penn State has lost 6 consecutive games, while Ohio State is only 2-9 against the spread in top 5 matchups. So
James Franklin's not that guy.
No,
I know, again, I'm not breaking news to anybody. He sucks in big. I am not a James Franklin guy at all. I mean, the great facilitator of sexual assault is not a guy that I want coaching my team.
Yeah.
And listen, I think with the injuries, and as injured as that Penn State offense has been this year, they've continued to perform. But at some point, when your quarterback's limping around, your tackle's limping around, and you're not going to have your best defensive rusher, the talent is going to win out for Ohio State.
Facts.
Just don't get in the way of yourself. That's all I'm asking. Don't get in the way of yourself, and you should be fine. All right, let's get your comments in here. Where do you guys come down on Bucks and Lions tomorrow? I like Penn State a lot in this game. I like Penn State a lot in this game. I feel like this lines up to be one of the better games we've seen.
Yeah.
And the wings will be smoked.
How about this Saturday for you? Can I just point this out? Dude over here is getting fitted for some new clubs on Saturday morning. Then going to come home and watch hopefully destroy Penn State in the pedos. And then what do you got after that? You said you had a busy Saturday. You got anything after that?
I was thinking about going to the Symphony, but I don't think so. I don't know. It's going to depend. If Penn State wins, I'm going to not be in a good mood. Penn State has turned me into an Ohio State fan somehow. And listen, Notre Dame's not going to the college football playoff. I think we're probably all on board with that. I don't have a rooting interest in, but if Ohio State loses to Penn State, the devil wins. It's a good day to be a Jezebel tomorrow if Penn State wins. I mean, who knows? Advocates donations before the comment section. Advocates donations. We are raising money to feed hungry kids on Thanksgiving. The Advocates are partnered with Thanksgiving Heroes. You can find them at slc.thanksgivingheroes.org. Make your donations on Venmo. Send a screenshot of your Venmo donation to Jake on Instagram. No, his Instagram's not private. SLC Jake. The memo section is going to determine winner and loser.
Yeah.
Who's this latest one from?
Calford.
Calford for $100. Monty Show feeds the children. Winner. There it is. It's over. Okay.
Well, I win. Google me.
I kind of think the ugly girlfriend or Maury dropping a pedo state bomb in the Venmo memo section to the advocates. But $100 is
listen. We need a lot more donations, man. And it could be $1 with a fire memo section.
Yeah.
Like, we're not asking you for some huge amount. We're asking you just to participate.
Wait, who did you say this last one was?
Calford.
Okay.
We're just asking you to participate at whatever level you can.
$1, $5, $100.
Any money, anything donated to this cause is better than not donating at all.
And I know that you get asked for a lot of donations, especially during election season. And this is going 100% to putting food in the mouths of hungry kids. 1 in 6 kids.
Yeah.
1 in 6 kids are going to be hungry on Thanksgiving. Let that sink in. In a country like ours, where we have so much, and maybe I'm wearing a Ralph Lauren shirt today. I'm going to Hawaii for Thanksgiving. I'm doing my part because I have what so many people don't have. I take for granted what so many people would die for. That's what we're talking about. Giving kids the basics of mashed potatoes. French, we're not talking about gourmet meals here, friends. We are talking about the basic necessities.
Look at that.
This is what your money goes to. A bag of Idaho russets, rolls, things like stuffing on Thanksgiving.
Turkey, pumpkin pie.
The basics. And if you think about a kid being hungry, not having a meal, do you know how many days or how many weeks does this food right here? How long do you think mom and dad are going to stretch that gallon of milk?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about. $1, $5, $100, $1 million. In 1 hour from now, we're going to give away a $50 Amazon gift card to the best memo section. The memo matters today. And I'm kind of leaning to Maury just for the cojones of putting in pedo state in the memo section.
Yeah, let's have another entry, even if it's $1. Like, let's, have a bit of a competition here.
All of this money goes to the kids.